Hi, Gary here. In this demo, we are going to walk through the prosperity rib without using a cable needle. So let's check it out. Okay, before we get started on the demonstration, let's take a little bit of a closer look at what is actually going on in the prosperity rib, which is this section of this swatch that I have here. So you've essentially got, as you have had with the smocking section below, you essentially are working on a 2x2 rib that starts with 2 pearls on and ends with 2 pearls on either side with the knit stitches in between. And what happens with the prosperity rib is the first step, and there are two cabling techniques here. The first step is you're actually going to bring the 2 pearl stitches in this trench here to the outside of the knit stitches, and you're essentially going to, if you then kept that pattern, you'd essentially end up with a 4x4 rib. So the 2 pearl stitches on the inside come to the outside, and the 2 knit stitches come in. Then once you've got that established, you're going to do 1/1 left and right crosses to create this little, what I like is to think of, it kind of reminds me of a roundabout on the highway. So you see that the one stitch pops to the front there, and then you just reverse the whole thing. So you do right crosses and left crosses, and then you do the reverse of the first move, which is then to pull those purl stitches back to the inside. So you end up again in a 2x2 rib. So let's get started. Okay, I have the prosperity ribs chart here in front of me. It's also written out in the pattern, but I just wanted to show you the two, or I guess it's four actual techniques that we're going to be using here. Sorry if it's a little hard to read, but you basically have a 2/1 left purl cable, 2/1 right purl cable, and then a 1/1 left cross and a 1/1 right cross, and those are the symbols for them. What I have here is a swatch of a 2x2 rib. I already did a couple of the repeats of the first step, which is going to be the left purl cable and then a right purl cable. And the reason I went ahead and did this because I also want to show you a little bit on the back side because it's a little different than a 2x2 rib. So we're basically here at the 2 pearl stitches that are in between the prosperity rib pattern. So I'm just going to purl those 2, and then we're ready to go. And if you remember, what we're doing here is moving this purl stitch to the opposite side of these 2 knit stitches, and then on this one we're going to move it to the outside as well. So the first one is the left purl cross, meaning you're crossing the purl to the left-hand side. And what you need to do is, and this is the same instruction basically for all of the techniques, and one of the reasons why I like these 2 versions of working this without a cable needle. There are many versions of, especially in the right cross, left cross, of getting that technique done without a cable needle. I like the ones that I'm going to show you because, one, I think it makes a crisper pattern. I've tested a bunch of different ones, and this one I think for whatever reason gave me the crispest looking result. But I also like it because the underlying instruction is basically the same, and that is you need to the first step is always going to be to insert your right needle tip into the stitches that are going to be crossing over. So in this case, these 2 knit stitches are crossing over the purl stitch. So you're going to insert, and you're always going to insert using this technique as if to knit. So you're going to insert your needle tip into the 2 stitches that need to cross over. So those 2 knit stitches, and then you're going to do the same thing with the purl stitch. So now they're all twisted because you inserted as if to knit, and basically to untwist them and get them in the right order, you're going to then insert your left needle, and this gets a little fiddly, but it will get easier each time you do it, through all three needles and put them back onto the left needle. So now the stitches are in the correct order. You've got this little loop that's coming over the top, that's the purl stitch, and then you've got your 2 knit stitches, and then you just work them in that order. Again, it gets a little tricky. And this will, this will speed up, I promise. So knit that, purl that first one, and then knit those 2. So that is the left purl cross completed. You can see the knit stitches slanting to the left. So now we're going to do the opposite on this side. So it's a right purl cross. And again, the first step is always going to be to insert the right needle tip into the stitches that are going to cross over. So those are always the knit stitches. So you're going to insert the needles into those first 2 knit stitches, and then into the purl stitches going to go behind. Since they're all 3 in order, you can just insert it through all 3 and get those twisted onto the right hand needle. And then you are going to pull them off in the order that you are going to knit them. So the purl stitch first, and then the first 2 knit stitches. So you're untwisting them and getting them in the right order, and then you're just going to work them in order. So first 2 are knits, and then the purl. And so what you see is the 2 purl stitches from this channel there have now been removed. The knit stitches have come together, and you have the purls on either side. They're a little hard to see because they're twisted there in the back, but there's a purl there and a purl there. So let's do this again, just to reinforce it. There's the 2 purl stitches in the middle, and now we're back to the knit stitches and to perform the purl cable, left purl cable. I'm going to zoom in a little bit if I can. It's not too blurry. Maybe it was. Pull up a little bit. Okay, sorry. So again, first step, always insert the right hand needle knitwise into the stitches that are going in front, which are always going to be the knit stitches in this case. So knit, pull those off, get them twisted onto the right hand needle, and then into the one that will come behind. Then reverse that, or untwist them and get them into the correct order. So now the purl stitch is at the first, and you just go ahead and work them as, and again, that on this particular one, the purl stitch is always a little harder to get to, but there it is. And the 2 knit stitches. And then here we have the right purl cross, 2/1, and so the 2 knit stitches are going to go first, so those get slipped as if to knit, and then the purl stitch comes third. They're all together, so you can just do it all in one fell swoop, and then twist them, get them in the correct order, and then work them knit, knit, purl. Then we're at the end of the row, and we always end with our purl 2. So the end of the start with a purl 2, end with a purl 2. And you are done with the first row of the prosperity rib pattern. I did want to show you the back side. It is written in the pattern as knit the knit stitches and purl the purl stitches as it faces you. In the smocking pattern, you were always working with the 2x2 rib, so that was easy, but here it's a little bit different because now we've essentially turned this into a 4x4 rib in the middle with the 2 purl stitches on the outside. So the first 2 are the knits, but I just wanted to let you see how they are as you come up to them. So then you have knit, 4 purls, and then knit. So knit, 3, 4, and then you should have 4 knits in a row, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because we're essentially doing a 4x4 at this point. So I just wanted to point that out, that because of the twisting and turning, it may not always be as obvious how the knits and the purls are lining up, but I think once you get into it, you will see that eventually it's just 4 purls and then 4 knits until you get to the end where you have the it'll be 2 knits on this side at the end. So I'm going to finish this row and then we'll be ready to do the left and right crosses when we get back to the right hand side. Okay, we are back on the right hand side. You can see what we've done here. You can very clearly see now that we've got essentially, once you get beyond the border stitches, you've got a 4x4 rib. If we just continued this pattern, that is what we would end up with the 4 purl stitches in the middle there. And we are now ready to do the 1/1 right cross and left cross to do the first twist in that little roundabout stitch that happens there in the middle. So let's take a look at that. It's basically the same, as I said, it is going to be the same basic instruction. Start out with our 2 purl stitches on the edge here. And then now it's the purl stitch that we moved, and we are ready to then do the first of the little twists. So the first one is going to be the right twist, right cross, I'm sorry. And so that means that this stitch is coming over that stitch. Sorry, got out of frame a little bit here. So that means that we are going to insert our right hand needle into the stitch that's coming in the front first. So that is that stitch, and because they are both together, we can do it all in one fell swoop because the second one will come second. So we're going to insert them again, always as knitwise in this methodology. So now they're twisted and in the wrong order. We're going to pull them off into the right order and pull that one around. And then we're just going to work them as 2 knit stitches. So that is the 1/1 right cross. You can see the stitch has come across there. And now we're going to do the 1/1 left cross. So in this case, this stitch is moving over that stitch. So that is the one that is going to get slipped first. Then we're going to slip the second one. Now we're going to untwist them and get them in the right order. So insert your left needle through both of them, pull them off, and then work them as 2 knits. And again, this is the one where it's a little difficult there. It's a little easier than it is on the purl side, on the purl cross. And so there we have our right twist and our right cross and left cross. I keep calling it a twist. We have the 2 stitches that are typically in the middle, and then we have the 1 purl that we pulled over in the last cable technique, and we are, oh, I'm sorry, we got all 4, or 4x4 rib, as I said. So now we're back to the knit stitches, which is where the cross is going to happen. And we're going to do the right cross first. So right needle into the stitch that's going to come over the top. And since they're both together, we can do them together, do them at once. Now they're twisted, untwist, and get them in the right order. So first, slip one off, then the other, then work them as knit stitches. Now, for the left cross, this stitch is going over the top. So that's the one that we slip first knitwise. Then we're going to slip the second one. And then these you untwist and put in the right direction all in one fell swoop. And then work them as knits. So there you have your 1/1 right cross, 1/1 left cross. And there it is again. So you would just continue that on across the pattern, and then you will do the reverse of both of those techniques when you get to the other side to close the little roundabout and then get the 2x2 pattern reestablished. I hope you found that helpful, and I hope it speeds up your prosperity ribs a little bit, but always feel free to use your cable needle if that is more comfortable for you. Thanks a lot.